Stanford suffered their first losing season since 2008 last year. But it was a fluke, and the Cardinal will bounce back in 2020. Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, the best kept secret in all of college football. Today bringing you our 2020 Stanford Cardinal college football predictions. As always, make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos. And also make sure to check out everything down in the description below, where you can visit our new website, thegridironexpert.com, for some exclusive content found over there. And also follow us on our social media pages over on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So guys, David Shaw, one of the best head coaches in the Pac-12, is entering his 10th year at Stanford. It's hard to believe that he took over all the way back in 2011. But since then, he has won 3 Pac-12 championships and 5 Pac-12 title appearances, has had 5 double-digit win seasons, and his worst season prior to 2019 was just an 8-5 record, which is still pretty dang good. Which is again why 2019 was an absolute fluke for the Cardinal, as they went 4-8 with only 2 of their 8 losses coming by just 1 possession. So they were not very competitive across the board last year. But a major reason the Cardinals struggled was because of injuries. Their quarterbacks were dropping like flies left and right. The offensive line was abysmal. They had a decent running game with Cameron Scarlett, but not really that great. And the defense was mediocre at best. It was a fluke, guys. Everybody has those now and then. But with Shaw still at the helm, the Cardinal will bounce back in 2020. And it starts on the offensive side of the ball. They returned 9 starters there after averaging just 21.7 points per game. You're not going to win many games when you do that. They are led by Davis Mills, though. He, of course, was not the first choice at quarterback for Stanford last year, but played well given the opportunity, throwing for over 1,900 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions in just 6 starts with the Cardinal. But the biggest key for Stanford is not their quarterback play, because I think Mills will be just fine under center, but it's going to be their running game, guys. Can the offensive line improve enough to get the run game going after only averaging 105.5 rushing yards per game in 2019? Good enough for 123rd in the country. So the running game has to improve. The offensive line has to improve. We know Stanford likes to dominate the time of possession, but they will not be able to do that if the running game cannot really take off, and they're going to have to do so without their leading rusher from last year in Cameron Scarlett. When you look at their defense, guys, they returned 7 starters. They allowed 29.8 points per game last year, and up front, their front 7 is not too hot. Not a whole lot of experience up there. To me, that's the major concern area for Stanford. But they do have a very strong and experienced secondary led by Paulson Adebo, who had 4 interceptions for the Cardinal last year. So that secondary is going to be the strength for Stanford this year. And when they face off against some solid quarterbacks within the Pac-12, it could be the difference maker. Maybe whether or not they can get back to the postseason in 2020. We take a look at their schedule here, guys. Once again, at the filming of this video, we do know that the Pac-12 will not be playing any non-conference games. They canceled all of their non-conference games, but by the end of this video, we will include the 2 wins and 1 loss that we would have projected them to have had they played a full 12-game season. So we know they won't have conference games, non-conference games. We know they will only have a conference slate starting somewhere in the middle of September, but that's all we know. They might bump it up to 10 games. They might keep it at 9. We're predicting all 12, just like we've done for every other Power 5 team. So we have them starting off technically 1-0 with a win over William & Mary. And when they face their first conference opponent in Arizona, we have them getting a win there as well. Have them going on the road to take on the Wildcats and winning that game. And again, we know the desert is not an easy place to play. We know that Arizona and Arizona State, for that matter, have been prone to pulling off upsets at home. I just don't see this Arizona team being able to do that. You look at Arizona this year, guys, they need a big year under Kevin Sumlin. Otherwise, he might be out of a job. And that's really hard to believe because a lot of people thought with his offensive mind, he could come in to this Wildcats program that's really struggled in conference play, especially over the years, and turn them around. And he's been unable to do that. So Stanford won by 10 points last year, defeating them 41-31. That was on a down year for the Cardinal. And while I know Arizona returns Grant Gunnell at quarterback, I know they've got some great wide receivers to go along with that. Their defense is ranked 126 in the country last year, 4 spots away from the worst in the nation. They are very thin within their secondary, especially at the safety position. And I think this is where Davis Mills, with his core of wide receivers, really lights up the Arizona secondary, lights up this Arizona defense. Stanford will have enough to go on the road and snag a win over a Wildcats team that will struggle mightily in 2020. So technically we got them at 2-0 here, but we're going to drop them to 2-1 with a home loss to USC. Stanford and USC over the years have had some classic matchups, guys. We know that. We've seen that, and sometimes we even see that in the Pac-12 championship. You know, they met in the Pac-12 title game just a few years ago. Last year was not a classic matchup between the Trojans and the Cardinal. Stanford lost that game 45-20 to USC. And we know that this is a big, big year for Clay Helton and the Trojans, guys. They once again have high expectations, just like they do every year. But we know that Clay Helton is on the hot seat, and his job might be on the line every single week this upcoming season. He needs this win against Stanford. We believe they get it with 8 returning starters on offense, led by Keaton Slovis, who was the mastermind and the leader behind the 6th ranked passing offense in the country last year. With Slovis back under center with the 2 great wide receivers in Amon-Ra St. Brown and Tyler Vaughns, and then a defense that returns 10 starters with a new defensive coordinator in Todd Orlando, this USC team has what it takes to win the Pac-12 South in 2020. And I do think they come on the road and snag a win over Stanford. Maybe not by 25, but it will be by double digits. Stanford then travels on the road to take on UCLA. And I don't know what to make of UCLA this year, guys. You know, last year they started off horribly. They had that wild 32-point comeback against Washington State. And while they went 4-8, all 4 of those wins came in conference play. Many of them by double digits. So I don't know what to make of the Bruins this year. Do they take another step forward under Chip Kelly and make a bowl game? Or do they still struggle, go anywhere between 3-9 to 5-7? They're quite the anomaly here. Stanford did lose to the Bruins 34-16 last year, though. And I do want to believe that UCLA does continue to improve under Chip Kelly, especially with a dangerous dual-threat quarterback in Dorian Thompson-Robinson and 2 of his top 3 wide receivers coming back this year. While UCLA's defense might not be all that great, they were 129th in the country against the pass, I do think they make just enough plays at home to take down the Cardinal for the 2nd year in a row. They're going to flirt with bowl eligibility, guys. I don't know if Kelly can get them there this year in year 3, but one of their wins will come against the Cardinal. I don't know if Stanford is 18 points better than they were last year. I know the injuries played a major role, but are they 18 points better last year? And is UCLA going to take a step back? I really don't think they will. So a strong start turns into a 2-2 start. They get a bye week. Had they played Notre Dame in South Bend, we would have had Notre Dame winning that game. And of course, we will have that reflected at the end of this video. So Stanford 2-3 after 5 games here, just like they were last year. 2-3 after 5 games. They return home to take on Washington State, a team they lost to by 27 points last year. And that secondary, of course, was kind of torched against the 1st-ranked passing offense in the country, as you would expect under a Mike Leach air raid team and Anthony Gordon at quarterback. But now Gordon is gone. Mike Leach is gone. And Nick Rolovich comes in to try to run his run-and-shoot offense with a brand-new quarterback. Brand-new quarterback, more than likely going to be Jaden DeLora, who has experience with a run-and-shoot type offense back during his time in high school. I look at this, though, guys. Washington State needs a solid quarterback play. DeLora is just going to be a freshman. And then you look at their defense, guys. They were 114th against the pass last year. So we kind of mentioned that. UCLA had a poor secondary. Davis Mills is going to have a big day, but they're going to fall short. You look at the Washington State game, poor secondary. Davis Mills is going to have a big day, and Stanford's going to come out on top. It's one of those things that I think home field advantage does play a little bit of a role, and I think some growing pains with a new coaching staff play a role as well. Stanford beats Washington State. We give them a quick loss here to Oregon, arguably the top team in the Pac-12, the favorite in the Pac-12, playoff contenders. With this Oregon defense, guys, I don't think Stanford has much of a chance to go on the road and put up many points against them. The Ducks, I do believe, will win the North. The Ducks, I do believe, can make the college football playoff. They won it last year, won the Pac-12 championship last year, won the Rose Bowl last year, and they have a chance to be even better than that 12-win team we saw in 2019. So they dropped this quick game to Oregon here, but bounce back against the other Oregon team, though, defeating Oregon State on a Friday night. Now the Beavers, guys, they're improving. Jonathan Smith is turning this program around. They are coming off a 5-7 season, which was their best record since 2014, but they fell just short to the Cardinal last year at home, falling 31-28. And you look in this game, guys, Oregon State is going to kind of go through some growing pains of their own. They lose their star quarterback. They're going to now have to rely more on Jamar Jefferson, one of the better running backs in the Pac-12, I would say. Their defense, though, I think does take a step forward. Their defense, kind of like Stanford here, has a few question marks up front, but will have a very experienced and strong secondary. So you look at all those things here, and you think maybe Oregon State can come on the road and pull off the win. I just don't think they're going to have enough. I think they do struggle a little bit at the quarterback position. Not many returning starters on the offensive side of the ball. I think the defense within the front seven struggles a little bit as well. And in a game that I think is decided by a touchdown or less, I believe it goes in favor of the Cardinals. So they do win this game, but drop the game to Washington on the road. Remember, we said Stanford started 2-3 last year, and following that 2-3 start, they defeated Washington somehow. Somehow defeated the Huskies 23-13, and we know that was a down year for Washington. They had very high expectations under Chris Peterson and fell just way short, I should say, going 8-5. So you look at that, and you look at what Washington's dealing with now with a brand new head coach in Jimmy Lake, promoted from defensive coordinator to head coach. Now dealing with a bunch of questions on offense. They lose Jacob Eason. They lose Salvin Ahmed. They lose 3 of their top 5 pass catchers from last year. So a lot of questions offensively. But this is a Washington team that, kind of like Oregon, kind of like USC, are teams that I think will really improve defensively and still remain to have a strong defense within the Pac-12. And Washington's been known for their defense in recent years. Jimmy Lake has engineered those defenses, and now he's still there. Kind of reminds me of a Manny Diaz type situation down at Miami. Except Jimmy Lake's going to do much better in year 1 than Manny Diaz did in year 1 with the U. So Washington wins this game, gets revenge after that 10-point defeat they suffered last year. Stanford does bounce back, though, with a win against Colorado. Somehow Stanford beat Washington but lost to Colorado, and somehow Colorado was able to take down Stanford. They were able to take down Stanford last year. They were able to take down Washington last year. So it blew my mind. And I think if Mel Tucker was still with the Buffaloes, maybe I'd have higher expectations for Colorado this year, despite losing their quarterback in Steven Montez, despite losing their star wide receiver in Laviska Shenault. But Mel Tucker left Colorado, left them high and dry in February. They thought they had their coach of the future. He proved them wrong. Now the Buffaloes are dealing with a big transition and not a lot of time to have adjusted to that transition. I do think the Buffaloes are in for a rough year and won't be very competitive in Pac-12 play this year. So not much explanation there for the win against the Buffaloes, and I think they drop the game to California here to kind of conclude Pac-12 play. Last year, Stanford fell to Cal 24-20. Their 9-game win streak against the Golden Bears came to an end. But California is a team, guys, that could be second best in the North this year, only behind Oregon. As long as Chase Garbers remains healthy, the offense is going to greatly improve. 10 returning starters on that side of the ball. And Justin Wilcox, as we all know, always boasts a strong defense. They return 8 starters and have a very dangerous front 7, to the point that if Stanford's offensive line maybe isn't up to par, maybe Luke Beckett and that California's defensive line can create havoc, wreak havoc in the backfield, and make the day very long for Davis Mills. California, a team I don't see losing very much this year. I think they do beat Stanford for their 2nd straight win in the series after dropping 9 straight. And then, of course, Stanford in non-conference play would conclude with a win against BYU. We do believe they would have taken down Kalani Sitake and the Cougars at home. So having said all of that, if you include the non-conference games here, guys, we do have Stanford going 6-6. We do have Stanford going 6-6. Now, of course, we know the non-conference games are not going to count. So if you just take a look at their conference games, guys, we have them winning, 4 conference games, 4 and 5 within Pac-12 conference play. That's not good enough to go bowling. If the Pac-12 does decide to move to 10 games, and that's very well possible, whoever that 10th conference game is against will decide whether or not David Shaw and the Cardinal return to the postseason after missing out last year. Again, 2019 was an absolute fluke. If Stanford remains healthy, they're going to be way more competitive than they were last year. Remember, only 2 of their 8 losses decided by 1 possession. The Cardinal will be more competitive. The Cardinal will drastically improve, and I do believe that regardless of what happens, you will see the Cardinal return to the postseason in 2020. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos. And also make sure to check out everything down in the description below, where you can visit our new website, thegridironexpert.com, for some exclusive content. And also follow us on our social media pages over on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time right here on The Gridiron Expert.